you all know who I am, Tom Heintz. I think we've worked with everybody here. And this is an interesting group because, you know, every one of you has come to me for questions and different things that we've worked on. I'm excited about this because a lot of times I lose track of y'all. The idea behind this is to make sure that we can keep in touch with each other, bounce ideas off of each other, and then let you know what's going on. This is kind of an experimental thing. This will be every 2 weeks. Let's see, but let's do the slideshow here. This mastermind group is so that we can continue to touch bases. I never know where everybody is in their lives. When people come to me, it's because they have an issue and somebody's recommended them. I don't advertise, and I have no clue who y'all are when we start. Can you hear my texting in there? For me, it's always a journey to get a chance to meet each and every one of you, and I have. Each one of you I've worked with in some way. But unfortunately, when we get done doing sessions, I kind of lose track. And there's so many of you that have unique gifts that I think you've either expressed an interest in healing, or you've expressed, you know, a desire to learn more about this stuff, or maybe you're healers yourself. We're going to introduce this format to everybody. We're going to have training, about 15 minutes of training. Tonight we're going to work on muscle testing, being able to get answers from the body. We'll talk about upcoming events, and then we've got a little question and answer time too. What to expect. Every 2 weeks we're going to do this. I have it set up right now that you'll have 6 total meetings every other week. So every 2 weeks at 7, we're going to do that 15-minute training tonight on muscle testing, upcoming events, like I said, Q&A, and you're welcome to send other people who want to join us. First of all, okay, so muscle testing. Does everybody know what muscle testing is? It's what I do when I'm talking to your subconscious. You'll see up here in this pink box here, it says it's just like a lie detector test without the electrodes. So a lie detector test works on reading the biometrics of your body, the heart rate, you know, blood pressure, all that kind of thing. It tells you based on the questions they ask, and they figure out what is going to be a strong answer and what's going to be a weak. And then when they ask you these other questions, they can tell when you are quote unquote lying. You can beat the machine. That's a possibility. But that's what the lie detector does. And so this kinesiology is kind of the same thing, only it's connecting with your subconscious. Now, your subconscious does the same thing, reads the biometrics of the body, and it will give you a strong or a weak response. Like muscle testing for most people, they're pushing down on the arm. And if it goes down easy, that means it's a weak response. If it stays strong, then that's a positive. Now, there's some techniques, and we just had a seminar down in Austin where Dr. Nelson came down. They invited me to come down and help him as just to help out there at the seminar. It was kind of fun to go down, and there was, I think 15 of us that went down and got that training. So a strong response is a yes, and a weak response is a no. Now, here's the cool thing about it. It doesn't matter how this testing is done. If you look online, if you go out there on YouTube, you'll see that there's a lot of different ways that you can be testing to get answers from your body. But don't ever let anybody tell you that there's only one way it can be done. We had an interesting experience yesterday. Can I share this story with you from Jeanette? Because we were practicing some things. She's actually getting her certification for the emotion code. My sister was the same way. The standard ones just didn't seem to work. And you'll notice that we have the sway test, which is standing or sitting. And if you kind of just relax, you'll find that if you're doing the sway test and you say something positive, say, my name is Tom, and I'll find that my body wants to sway forward. And I say, my name is Ralph, my body's going to go back. So that's your weak or your strong type of testing there. So you're getting an answer. So if you see somebody in the grocery aisle there, or over in the vitamin section, and they're holding a bottle and they're swaying back and forth, it's probably not because they are under the influence. It's because they're testing to see whether it's something good for them or not. And that's that sway test. This is the one that I normally test or teach when we're doing in a session. That's the first thing I teach. I've actually seen people do it while they're sitting, and they just kind of rock back and forth. They're getting the answers. All you're doing is you're reading the body. The two-handed, the finger pull, the ring and ring, the breakout, So the finger pull, if you can still see me, I do it. I make a ring like this and I pull it through. And if it goes through easy, that's a no, it's weak. If it sticks, it's a yes. The ring and ring, I use actually the middle finger on both fingers, on both hands. It's a two-handed one. And I just put my fingers like this and I pull apart. If it slips apart nicely, then that's a no. If it sticks, it's a yes. The breakout is where you actually have that ring again and you put your fingers in it and you're trying to pull them apart. And if it sticks and it's strong, that's a yes, and this is a no. The one-handed, they got what they call a hand solo, which is where you put this finger on top of the other one and you're pushing this one down. If it goes down easy, it's a no. If it sticks strong, it's a yes. For me, it's pretty hard to use that way. Another one is a friction, where you're actually moving your finger around. And for me, it's easier to use my middle finger, but you have to see which one works for you. If it kind of jumps, you're going to ask your body, I say, just give me a yes. And if it jumps on that one, that means that's the yes, because it was stronger. If it's a no, it slides nice and smooth. So that's one way you can do. The flick is where there's a little spot right here, there's a sweet spot right here on your thumb that kind of indents. And I use my middle finger again, and I stick it on there, and right in that hole, and if it flicks out, give me a yes, it sticks. If it's a no, it slides out. There's different ways. You gotta remember, this is just your body telling you. Fingertip touch. Let's see, what the heck? Oh, yeah. Okay, so my sister was unable to test. And you're gonna find that sometimes when you're testing, some work better for you than others. And so what I do is, I was asking, I said, so is there a certain way? For me, this is my sure way. I can always get the answer if I do this. I have a couple other ones, because I gotta tell you this, my wife actually could hear me testing at night in bed with the lights off, because she could hear that, and she will always say, oh, what are you testing? So I figured I gotta figure something else that she can't hear. So I actually trained my body, and this is the cool thing, like down at the bottom it says, anything your body's willing to accept. I said, when this finger moves, it's a yes, and when this finger moves, it's a no. After a few hundred times of doing it, your body will get trained so that it just tells you that answer. For my sister, she had to have something different, and I asked, and her body guided me to know that for this, I think maybe it's better to say this way. So if I have my fingers, if it touches these two together, that's a yes, and these two are a no. I think you're getting the idea that it really doesn't matter, right? As long as you're getting a yes or no answer on a consistent basis. Yesterday, we found one that it was simply the little finger. Goes in, that was a yes. Goes out, that's a no. And you could actually do it just barely moving it, and you could answer. It looked like the person wasn't even doing anything. I guess she was just sitting there, but she could write down the answers. So that was what was working in that particular way for that person. Some people can see pictures and colors inside their head when they're working. They just keep their eyes closed and they're working. I've seen that happen. A pendulum, when something is hanging, you got actual pendulums, or you can hang anything. You got to ask. You always have to ask, because the body will manifest in different ways. Normally, clockwise is yes, and counterclockwise is no, if it's going in a circle. Or it could be going straight back and forth, or it can go back crossways. You have to ask to see what the body's trying to tell you, and it will tell you that. Arm pressure, that's that one holding the arm out. And, you can actually do it when you're sitting by holding your elbow in tight against your body and then pushing down on the arm. To me, the easier, the better, the lighter, the better. I showed somebody how to test, and he came back and he says, I'm really having a lot of problems. I just can't get them to come apart. And I'm going, wow, you're going to kill yourself. So you got to do it nice and light, nice and light. Okay, some of the tricks of the trade. You don't look into the person's eyes when you're testing them. You'll get the wrong answer. So you want to kind of look away, avert your eyes. Some of the other things that you can do is, if you're not testing correctly on the arm, for example, there's a bump on the arm. It's right here. And if you go on this side of it, the body's going to protect it, and it's going to always be weak. But if you go on this side of it and you're testing, then it's a slow pressure. It's not a jerk thing. It's just a slow pressure, and see if it goes down. So there's a lot of little tricks and things that you can do as you work with this, but just give your body a break and just go with it.
Tom, I have a question.
Ask away, please.
Hey, it's Jessica. So
Hi,
I'm
Jessica.
wondering, do you find a technique that you like that is kind of like your go-to test, or do you play with all of these? Like, I mean, is there value to finding one that you really like, or do you just do a bunch of different ones?
Absolutely. You want to find your sure one. Here, let me just do this real quick. I'm going to zap out of this thing. I find that when you first start out, you have a tendency to put too much pressure on yourself, and your finger will start to die. So here's the ring pull, okay? And you're putting your finger through it. Well, your finger doesn't bend sideways. It bends this way, right? If you just think about it, you have to turn your hand a little bit. And then when you're going through this, you think about this. I am doing this every time I'm asking a question, and I double test. Sometimes I test 3 times to make sure I got the right one. So if I'm doing that, think about how many times I'm working that finger over while I'm asking and doing a session that lasts 45 minutes to an hour. So hundreds of times. Now, if you're moving your finger in the wrong direction, I've sometimes had it hurt so bad I had to switch the fingers. And I'm moving my way all the way down to my pinky, and the pinky doesn't work as well. So yes, if you have other ways of doing it, that's a great way. You just got to practice them enough. Do you have to do them all? Oh, heck no. I wouldn't know. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thanks for that. So maybe have like a couple, 2, 3 favorites, right?
Yes, I would. I would. Well, think about it. If you're having to do 2 hands every single time, practice something with 1 hand, practice something with 2 hands. A lot of times I do the 2 hands because I got somebody sitting next to me or online, and they want to see the answers as I'm getting them. So the 2 hands work really well. It just happens to be that's my go-to of anything.
Gotcha. Thank you.
You bet. Any other questions?
Hey, Tom, this is Jessie. I have a question.
Hey, Jessie.
Hey, so you mentioned some people seeing like a color or a word instead of actually muscle testing. So would you do that like at the same time as muscle testing, or would you just not actually, do the muscle testing and do that if it's happening?
Well, let me explain what I saw the person do. And for me, I just like going, wow, I wish I could do that. Dr. Nelson's daughter, he talked about that at the seminar. She doesn't even need to muscle test. The answers just come to her. You got to remember, the source of the answer is the body. It's the subconscious. If you're able to have a connection somewhere where you feel that, I mean, I even know some people that their left ear you can feel the difference in the ears while they're working. So these 2 ladies, they have a wellness center up there in Spokane. The one is a Reiki master, and the other one is the body code certified. They put people on the table, and they just have them, while the Reiki master is releasing and opening up the body code person is down at the other end. She never says a stinking word. And I'm sitting there watching them, and I'm like trying to stay awake because it's so quiet. It's nice music. They got everything going on, and they're working that way. But she sees the answers in her head. I think if you're training yourself, then I can see where you'd be doing both at the same time, just to make sure you got the right answers. I don't know. I haven't trusted myself enough, and that's really all it is trust. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, any other clarifications?
Yeah. What you trust you're trusting your physical body to get yes or no, right?
Yes, you are.
You're trusting. You said don't bark. You said you're not trusting yourself.
Well,
but you're trusting your physical body. What is it I'm confused about what you're not trusting.
The question, if I understand you correctly, is I'm not trusting myself, or?
Yeah, you just said you're not trusting yourself enough to what? Because you are trusting.
It's because it's a different type of test.
Oh, you're not trusting the answer to just come.
That particular technique, I'm not trusting.
I see.
Literally, I've had people where they are trying to follow me and trying to do it the way I do it, and they just can't seem to get consistent. And yet, if we put them into a different one, which is why it's so cool that there's so many different ones on YouTube that you can watch, there may be something else that, oh, bingo, now you're getting the answers correct. And the other thing that you need to remember is that you need to surrender to the subconscious. I can actually hold a pendulum and say, go clockwise, and it will go clockwise. I can force that. I can say go counterclockwise, swing back and forth, and do all these different things. And I'm not moving my hand, but I'm forcing it through the force of will. So the question is, especially when you're just starting out, you're looking at this and you're saying, am I making it happen, or am I really receiving an answer from the other person? And so sometimes you just have to clear your mind and say, okay, the same question. Sometimes I'll do an answer, I get an answer, I'm going, wait a minute, is that me that's doing that? And the answer, it'll come back and say yes or no. If it says no, then I can trust it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes you sit there when you first start and you're working away on somebody and you're helping somebody, you know what? It just goes, you sit there, am I just being an idiot here? You know, sitting in this room, trying to release energies all the top of my head. And then you see the differences of things that you've done or helped somebody else do. And you go, no, I trust it. So when you finally make that leap of faith and say, okay, I'm now going to listen, you're going to find that your muscle testing is going to get stronger and stronger. Any other questions?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Let's see. Trying to think if there's something else on muscle testing. Is this helpful to y'all? I think I'm getting some yeses out there. So, okay.
Very helpful.
Okay, good. Is there anybody who's having problems doing this? I mean, I know some of you have not done it at all, and some of you are working on learning how to do this. Is there something that somebody's running into that's a problem for them?
Yes.
Okay, what's up?
I have tried a couple different techniques, and I came to find out I had the opposite answers instead of the yes I was getting. Someone told me, I don't remember if it was you or one of someone from the group, but yes, someone did tell me that I might be experiencing the opposite.
Okay.
Thing.
So how do we make it so that we can do that? Okay, so hi, Bazanka. So thank you for that question. So that's what I call that we're reversed. There's a couple reasons why you're reversed, and some of them can be if you're really negative, you've been in a bad situation, you come out of something maybe with pounding music, something that's kind of put you in a hypnotic stage, or you've been really torqued off lately. It means you're probably being affected by entities or have been lately. I'll tell you, the best thing that you can do at that particular time is to say a prayer. Now, if I'm working with you, I like to connect to you directly, and that's when I know that you're reversed. If you're not, then that's the other time that you use what they call a surrogate. A surrogate could be somebody else who comes in and if you're working on now this is not yourself. This is if you're working on somebody else and they're reversed, you can have somebody else come and you could use them as your tester. They can just touch them, or I rarely use a surrogate because I usually don't have anybody else around. But the best thing you can do is say a quick prayer. Okay. Believe it or not, the positive just from saying a prayer to the Creator or to God to ask for help to correct it, you'll be surprised how frequently that alone will take care of it. Now, if you got something else that you're still reversed, I mean, you could technically, if you know you're going to get reversed answers, you can still get the answers you need, right? You just know it's going the opposite. So that's a good way to go ahead and say, can I clear this? And if you get a no, well, you know it's a yes. I mean, it sounds kind of weird, but it's just reversed. And so you can do what you need to do to clear that stuff, and then test. I mean, you always are trying to test. You're always asking, always, before you do any work on anybody, you always want to try and make some kind of connection, which I do in the form of a prayer. Y'all know I'm that way. And then I ask, give me a yes, give me a no. So I'm using this, give me a yes. Okay, now I'm reversed. Give me a yes, give me a no, give me a good to go. And I say the good to go is asking permission from the other person's subconscious to do the work. There's an integrity thing, and I'll throw this out there right away, is that you never want to do work on somebody who doesn't want you to do work on them. Does that make sense?
Right, yeah.
Now, if you don't have permission, it's kind of an invasion of privacy. Dr. Nelson talks about his daughter when she first learned how to do it, and I think she was like 10 or 12 or something like that, and they're in the car, they're at a stoplight, and she goes, that guy over there's got parasites. And she's testing on the guy that's out there. So by muscle testing, there's a lot of advantages. That is, you can know if somebody's telling you the truth or not. If you're at church and somebody's giving us talk or speech or whatever, and something just doesn't feel right, test for it. see if it's the right thing. Or even if you're working in some situation, you can tap into that person for your own benefit to find out whether or not that's a truth or not. Now, is it 100% correct? What do you think the answer is?
No.
No, you're right. The answer isn't always correct. But you get to the point where you start feeling the difference. You'll notice the difference. Is that answering your question?
Yes. I haven't tested recently. I've been after a few sessions with you, so maybe now
Okay.
I'm good to go.
Okay. Yeah, not quite. So
You're cheating.
okay, but I know. It's funny with muscle testing. We were just talking about this today. I had some friends over, and somebody in our church is getting ready to do a gender reveal for the baby that she's carrying, and they don't like it when I come in and tell them what it is. So my daughter was not appreciative, and they don't seem to be. So I have a tendency to keep it to myself. Is it 100% correct? It seems to be more correct on somebody else rather than on myself.